5 teams in the NBA, 5 teams that need to pretty much go ahead and just blow it up. And we'll cover those 5 teams. Now, there are some other teams in there for honorable mentions that I didn't put them in the list because either they've pretty much started that process this season due to the trade deadline, let alone there's some teams that just need to retool. But let's jump into these first 5. As number 1, we're going to start off with the Eastern Conference. One of the teams that have been pretty much a middle ground team for the past 3 to 4 seasons. And that is no other than the Indiana Pacers, sitting at a 9th seed in the Eastern Conference at a 26-31 record. The Indiana Pacers, for the past couple of seasons, they've had a nice young team, nice young core. Sabonis came in, and he grew within. Being an all-star, you have brought in Victor Oladipo, and during that time period, he was an all-star back-to-back years, but injuries have occurred within this team, and they've been pretty much middle of the pack. They were pretty much objectively kind of meh to begin with. So pretty much they sat 19th in winning percentage, around 47%, and 16th in net efficiency. After around 2,500 minutes within the season, they have scored 22 fewer points than their opponents. Now, we have seen with TJ Warren, he pretty much was bubble Warren last season. He was going off until Jimmy Butler shut him down in the regular season, let alone in that playoff series against the Miami Heat where they got swept. And you gotta remember, those Pacers, they were 4th seed and the Heat were 5th. But now coming to this season, TJ Warren is hurt. He's out for the season. And within that, there's been injuries within this team all over the place. Now, Malcolm Brogdon was a nice pickup for their team, but if you're looking overall within the whole starting 5 and where they're sitting at right now, nothing too crazy, nothing too impressive. And during the preseason, I did have the Indiana Pacers finishing at a 9th seed, so they're pretty much sitting to where I kind of expected them to be. Now, they did have a hot start to the beginning of the season, but ever since the middle to now, it's been on a downtrend. Indy already has 6 8-figure salaries on the books for the next season and 4 $18 million plus salaries owed for 2022 to 2023. So only 3 of Indiana's rotation regulars are under the age of 25. Who are those? That's Domantas Sabonis, Aaron Holiday, and Goga Bitadze. Those are the 3 young cats they have. I fully expect them to pretty much stick with Domantas Sabonis in his experiment. Miles Turner is going to pretty much be out, as we saw his MRI a couple days ago. And I'm very shocked they didn't let go of Miles Turner. But overall, what I'm saying is, and I've always stated, the Sabonis-Miles Turner front court is never working and never did. A minus 1.1 net rating and over 1,000 minutes playing together. The Indiana Pacers need to blow it up overall. Now, you do have a young cat within Sabonis, so you're going to have to build around him with other teammates within there. I fully expect Miles Turner, he needs to get out there in the offseason, and they need to blow it up just in general. Because the Pacers, they're not going to make the playoffs this season. You've had injuries, and as of so far, they've been kind of on the downtrend. So it is what it is on there. The Pacers need to rebuild to begin with. Now, to pair Sabonis with another young player, I'm not sure who that is. Maybe they just wait next season till TJ Warren gets healthy and try to work out the Malcolm Brogdon, TJ Warren, and Sabonis experiment with some other rotation players, which I can see Indiana kind of taking because not a lot of superstars, let alone any, go over to Indiana. And I don't expect that to be the case within free agency. So they're going to be in a tough spot next season. Hopefully they rebuild correctly. So the Indiana Pacers. Within my next team, I do have that needs to rebuild over the Eastern Conference, and this is going to be the 11th seeded Washington Wizards, sitting at a 24-33 record. Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal are not an ideal fit. I don't know why the Washington Wizards traded away John Wall for Russell Westbrook for pretty much a season, to where they would pretty much let him go. Even if the Wizards do make the playoffs, and if they did make the playoffs and Russ had a good season with Bradley Beal, it would not negated to having Russ and Bradley Beal for more than one season pretty much. That was just pretty much a retooling decision. They wanted to get John Wall out of there, but the season has been horrendous for the Washington Wizards. Now, Russell Westbrook has been getting triple doubles and putting up stats. But you're looking at the Wizards, they're not getting enough W's. Now, credit to the Washington Wizards, because they have won 5 games in a row, and they're 7-3 within their last 10 games, and they're tied for the 10th seed. And what does that mean? They could potentially get into the play-in tournament. So who knows, man? When you're talking about a play-in tournament, those are only 1 game. So who knows if they can squeak into a 7th or an 8th seed. Even if they do make the playoffs, they need to blow it up. You got to start with this team with Denny Avdija and some young players. I will look to trade Bradley Beal away. Bradley Beal is not a superstar. He is not a star. He is an all-star type player who can get buckets. He can average 30 a season, which he's been doing this season, but he's not a number 1 option. I kind of relate him somewhat towards a Zach LaVine. And on my position, I've always stated Zach LaVine cannot be a number 1 option. He cannot be a number 1 guy. And the Bulls have not made the playoffs with him. So I'm not going to knock him on that, but the Wizards, they need to blow it up. Knowing management and ownership, they're going to do anything they can to keep the box office player of Bradley Beal. So they need to blow it up on my position, but you know how the NBA works, man. On that, even if you are keeping Bradley Beal, you're gonna have to pair him with this. You're gonna have to pair him with a star wing, if anything, a scoring wing. And in the market, not many out there. I fully expect Russell Westbrook to get traded in the offseason, by the way, on that end. But Washington, weird team, man. Weird team. All right, who else we got? Last team in the Eastern Conference, we do have the Toronto Raptors, sitting right behind the Washington Wizards with a 12th record in the East at a 24-34 record. Not too much I'm going to dive too deep about here. Everyone knows about the Toronto Raptors need to blow it up. Kyle Lowry was on the trade market. He could have potentially got traded to the Lakers or the Philadelphia 76ers, potentially the Miami Heat. But his days pretty much are long overdue with the Toronto Raptors, which I don't even expect them to make the play-in tournament. They potentially could. They're a half game from the 10 seed, so who knows where they can try to cook up. But Pascal Siakam has a downfall of a season, and this team has been lacking on a true big. They lost Serge Ibaka, they lost Marc Gasol. They brought in Aaron Baines within this team. But besides that, they've been trying to run Siakam at the 5. And I don't like how you have Fran VanVleet starting as your 2. Now, VanVleet started a couple games in the NBA Finals 2019, but those were a couple scenarios, like when JJ Barea started at the 2 in the 2011 Finals. You know, you can do it a couple times during matchups and all that, but I don't like the complete roster for the Raptors. They did not do a good job coming in. Now, I'm bringing in, trading away Norman Powell and getting Gary Trent Jr. has been a huge plus. So for them to rebuild, he's a great young piece. I would still keep Pascal Siakam to work around him. Fran VanVleet, of course. And you have to look to move Kyle Lowry, which looks like he's going to walk away. But I fully expect the Raptors in the next 2 to 3 seasons to miss the playoffs and look for that rebuilding stage. And that's what they need to do. But is what it is on there. A couple teams already in these kind of notable mentions. The Pistons and the Magic already blew themselves up, which in the trade deadline when they let go of Blake Griffin as being bought out, Derrick Rose being traded, the Magic trading away Aaron Gordon, Vucevic, Evan Fournier, so on and so forth. So that's on that. We'll cover next video for the Western Conference teams that need to rebuild. Okay, now we're looking here into the Western Conference of the NBA. And these are only going to be around 2 teams, so we'll go pretty quick on them. Number 1 is going to be the San Antonio Spurs. If you guys follow my channel, I've deeply expressed that the Spurs should have blown it up a while ago. In 2019, in those playoffs, when they lost in the first round, Game 7 to the Denver Nuggets, after I believe they had a 3-2 series lead on the Nuggets and they blew it. But within there, the first year experiment of both a duo of DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge, we already knew the Spurs were going downhill as it is. And I've stated they should have blown it up. They should have traded away LaMarcus Aldridge, should have traded away DeMar DeRozan. Now, the next following season, they didn't even make the playoffs, which we saw last season. And I said again in the offseason, they need to blow it up. They need to trade them. They did not do that. And then now they're sitting a 10 seed with a 28-28 record. They bought out LaMarcus Aldridge, who then retired in the NBA. So they got nothing for him. And then DeMar DeRozan stuck out there, which they didn't even look to trade him. So, you know, Spurs management's been all over the place. I don't know what they're doing. And listen, the Spurs have a nice team. You know, we have those young cats in DeMar DeRozan, but it makes zero sense. Even if you do make the playoffs, which is not going to happen. But if you were to get bounced in the first round, what's the point? DeMar DeRozan's going to be walking in free agency. And you need to start hitting that rebuild button with these young players. With DeMonte Murray out there. And so on and so forth. But that's not the case with San Antonio. I actually don't even know why Popovich is still coaching. Popovich should have been done with that franchise 2 seasons ago. But he wants to coach, so yeah, I mean, who am I to say about this? But Spurs, I give them respect even with their roster and the circumstances. They are sitting at a 28-28 record, and they were 5th seed earlier this season. So, I give them respect. But at the end of the day, why does that matter, to them? Because you're either not going to make the playoffs or you're bouncing the first round. So their era and momentum has gone down with when it comes down to the Popovich experiment, especially with LaMarcus Aldridge. And you brought in DeMar DeRozan pretty much for that season for a flip-flop trade, but it makes zero sense. You're not going to go deep in the playoffs. You're not going to win a finals. Hit the rebuild button. You got to do it. But now they're being forced to in this offseason, so whatever. Last team, the Minnesota Timberwolves. Number 14 seed with a 16-43 record. One of the bottom teams in the NBA to begin with. I've stated even if this team was healthy with D'Lo, Anthony Edwards, and Cat, they would still not make the playoffs, and it still makes zero sense for them to be together. Cat's been there for 6 seasons, made 1 playoff appearance, and that's when they brought in Jimmy Butler, Tom Thibodeau, Taj Gibson, Jamal Crawford, and these veterans to pretty much speed up the process with Andrew Wiggins and Cat. And that hindered them because whenever Jimmy Butler left and those other guys, it boomeranged them in a downward direction. So the Cat experiment needs to be done with. They need to trade him away with D'Angelo Russell. They got to rebuild, and they got to start off with Anthony Edwards out there. I'm not sure about Malik Beasley. He's had his he's had his off the court issues on his side of things. Who knows about that? But the Minnesota Timberwolves, man, they need to blow it up. Cat's not that guy. He's a beta. He's a second option. And he needs to go to a team that could use him to the way he needs to be used. So, it is what it is on that part. Those are the 5 teams I do have under my books that needs to blow it up. You could potentially put a couple of those other teams in the mix, but I think the Kings, they're not going to get enough pieces to begin with, and they're young, so they can't really blow it up. The Thunder are already blowing up. Same thing with the Rockets. They're already doing that. They need to do it more with John Wall, get him out of there, and all that. But, yeah, those are the 5 teams. Let me know if you guys got any others. We'll cover more.